Hello and welcome to the Plate Spinning Academy podcast, hosted by me, Nick Davis, a productivity mentor and multi-passionate entrepreneur. I know what it feels like when you want to do all of the projects all at the same time, with never enough time and energy to do it all. I'm a passionate creative who's found my almost perfect blend of business and life that keeps my head motivated, my body energised and my heart happy. I'll be talking about all things to do with organisation, rotas, goal setting, systems and structures, and strategies for business and life together, all combined with a healthy dose of accountability and motivation to help you on your journey. It's time for you to find your tailored recipe for accomplishment and contentment. Hello and welcome to today's episode. What I'm going to be talking about today is putting your CEO head on, becoming your own boss. So you've got your business, you've set everything up, sales are coming in, you're working really hard, and you're finally working for yourself. You're not beholden to an employer. You're not having to jump through hoops of fire for the times that they want you to work, all of that. You're in control of what you're doing, okay? Now, you may have come from a toxic work environment, and that might have been the reason why you decided to go self-employed and be your own boss. However, if you're not careful, you will end up being the worst boss to yourself. So it's really important that now that you're in charge of your own work, you need to make sure that you are the best boss to yourself. So now's the time to develop a serious business head. So you need to be thinking about, you are no longer working for somebody else, fair enough. You're working for yourself. You are your own employee and you are your own employer. So how do we get that right? How do you not become that toxic boss to yourself? We need to create a CEO mindset. And the sooner we can look at how to do this, the sooner we can run our businesses more efficiently and we can make better decisions and we can end up saving ourselves a lot of time and money. So I'm gonna come up with a little concept for you now, and it is writing your own employment contract. Do you think about if you were employed by somebody else, you would have a contract in place. It would have to comply with employment law. You'd have to have a health and safety briefing. You'd have to have a safe working environment. You'd have to make sure that you had adequate breaks. You'd have a minimum wage. You'd have a maximum hourly working week. You'd have protection from bullying and harassment. You'd have suitable training for the role that's expected of you. And if it was possibly a manual job, you'd have the correct PPE in place. You'd have a comfortable working environment, access to fresh air and light, all of that stuff. And how much of this stuff do you consider when you're working for yourself? What about undertaking regular training and CPD? You've got a sign to say you've read and understood policies and procedures. What about having an accident book? Would you work for somebody if they didn't offer paid holidays or sick pay? What about if they wanted you to work 12-hour days with no breaks? What if they expected you to work even though your kids are sick and need looking after? Who's going to work for an employer like that? You just wouldn't do it, would you? Is an employer even going to get away with those terms and conditions? I wouldn't think so. However, a lot of us, when we work for ourselves, that is exactly what we do. Why do we think that we can just carry on working like this? If we've put all of that in place, we have become the worst boss we've ever had. And we aren't working for ourselves to work for the worst boss in the world. So we need to turn that around. How about you make a promise to yourself that you create your own employment contract and you keep a promise to yourself that you'll adhere to it? It doesn't have to be anything complicated. You can just do an A4 sheet of paper, committing to what you will and won't do, how many hours you'll work, what you'll do if you're not feeling well, what you'll do if the kids are off school. There's lots and lots of things you can put in there, and that's going to be tailored to you. It's going to be tailored to your needs. So the good part of this is you haven't got somebody else creating that contract for you. This is all down to you. But it's a commitment to yourself that you'll do the right thing by yourself. Pin it up where you can see it, near where you normally work every day, like maybe a notice board next to your desk, or stick it on the kitchen fridge if you need to, something like that. You could even create a dress code for yourself. I know from experience, I know that I work more efficiently when I'm wearing a pair of shoes. I'm not just lounging around the house. I definitely don't feel productive when I do that. But make a promise to yourself that, okay, while I'm in work mode, this is how I'm going to present, even if you're working from home. You do whatever you feel comfortable doing. Try and commit to it for, say, 3 months after that, and then review it every quarter. Put it into your list of tasks to do, that every quarter you will audit your employment contract with yourself, change things up if you need to, but just try and keep on top of it. Though it might sound like a bit of an unnecessary faff, but for me, this is removing some of that head clutter. Something else that you're not really having to think about once it's become a habit. Having your own policies and procedures in place for scenarios that may or may not occur. It's the planning in advance. It's working out, well, if something happens, if the school is closed and the kids have to be at home, or the internet goes down or anything like that, what are you going to do? What are your policies and procedures to make sure that you are still showing up in your business and still working as efficiently as possible? Don't forget to be realistic about it. You really do need to consider your needs for this. See it as well as putting some boundaries in place for yourself. If you've promised yourself on your employment contract that you're not going to work more than 8 hours a day, then stick to it. You might even want to put an hourly rate in there. How much is your time worth? If you were to work out your basic hourly rate, that would really help when it comes to deciding when and how to outsource tasks. So I'll just pull some figures out of the air, but if you kind of value your hourly working rate at £50 an hour, it's going to take you 10 hours to write a sales page. That's going to cost you £500. If you ask a copywriter or VA to do it, you might be paying them the same £50 an hour, or maybe a bit more. But if it only takes them 2 hours to do the work, then surely that's a more efficient way of doing things. So I would love for you to give this a go. Like I said, just get yourself an A4 sheet of paper, write it all down, pin it up on your fridge or your notice board, and let me know how you get on. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Come and find me on socials. I've got a couple of free groups you can find on my profile that you are welcome to join. I'd love to hear more about what you'd like me to talk about on the podcast, and I would welcome your ideas for future episodes.